Chapter 7, Noah. Ethan was the one who said the drinks had ran out. He said it quickly, outstanding before anyone could question it, already reaching for his jacket. Nobody believed him. There were at least 2 bottles of wine and a half case of beer by the counter, but none of us argued. Maybe we just all needed a break, and by we, I mean all the guys. So we filed out of the cabin into the crisp night air. Jordan stretched theoretically, cracking his back like he just ran a marathon. Lucas slid his hands into his coat pockets, expressions unreadable, as though he were calculating the best route down the driveway. Ethan walked fast, shoulders tense, a man looking for somewhere to put his thoughts. I followed the last one out, listening to the crunch of boots against the snow. Yeah, it snowed, even at the base of the mountain. It was one of those moments where I felt like a tag-along. The 3 of them, Ethan with his ambition, Jordan with his charisma, and Lucas with his, still sharp logic. And I always seemed like the type who just was going on for the ride. I'd convinced myself for years that I was the steady one, the dependable one, but lately, even that felt like a consolation prize. Their nearest store was 15 minutes down the mountain road, so I guess Ethan wasn't wrong. It was on the base of the mountain. Jordan kept the energy up with jokes about the weather, about how this trip was the setup for some horror movie. Lucas gave dry, precise counters. Ethan didn't say much except to mutter now and then about how the cabin was too damn stuffy. I watched him from the passenger seat mirror, the way his jaw stayed drenched, even when the rest of his face tried to soften. He wasn't running out for drinks. He was running away from Maya. Jordan cranked the radio. Some pop song played tiny through the speaker. And for a moment, I thought he would fill the silence. But rather, this pop song was not poppy at all. It was none other than International Players Anthem by UGK. Ethan smirked. I don't know. It was like a stupid question. We're fine, right? She just wants more attention. She just wants more attention than I can give her right now, right? Y'all know how it goes. At that moment, I caught Jordan's eyes flick toward me in the review. He didn't answer. Nobody answered Ethan. Lucas leaned forward instead. That's a trade-off, though, isn't it? As he did reply. You put your work in first, relationships strain. You put your relationships first, and work suffers. It's a math problem that no one likes the solution to. Lucas had answered, but really he was talking to himself. Jordan laughed, a sharp bark. Trust Lucas to make love sound like a spreadsheet. At that moment, I caught Ethan. He didn't laugh. He tightened his grip on the steering wheel. For a second, I thought he might say something real. Instead, he turned the volume up. That was the end of the conversation that he had started. I sat there thinking about Elise, about the way she looked at me that morning when I joked about sleeping in while she went for a run. A quick flash of disappointment she thought of. I didn't catch. She always had been an ambitious one. on pushing forward, making plans, wanted to go to law school, moving faster than I could follow, maybe moving faster than no one could follow. Although he was a fireman, I told myself that Noah didn't mind. No. I was the anchor. And lately, I wondered if I could be the anchor or if I was holding her back. For goodness sakes, I was speaking in third person. The store lights glowed when we pulled in. Jordan jumped out first, full of restless energy, making a big production, choosing craft beers. Lucas went straight for the wine section, efficient as ever. Ethan hung back by the door, scrolling his phone. I wandered just through the aisles, without purpose, picking up bags of chips. Sure we didn't need more dip, chocolate. You gotta have something to eat on. That's what she always said, especially when drinking. Watching them all separate into corners, it hit me. None of us were as put together as pretended. Shotojima was armor, words, and Lucas' logic was a wall. Ethan's ambition was eating him alive. And me, I'd been measuring myself against all of them for way too long. I hadn't realized my strength, and I wasn't being me. I was noticing it as I tried to hide it. But I couldn't hide it anymore. I could see the cracks, and the cracks were visible. On the drive back, I stayed quiet, letting them chatter wash over me. Ethan cracked a beer, reckless, driving and drinking in the winding road. Jordan egged him on. Lucas protected and protested, but only mildly. As I stared out the window, the dark stretch of pines flickering past, and thought about Elise again, and how she laughed easier with the others than with me these days. About whether she was already deciding if she could be better. When we pulled back up to the cabin, the sound of voices spilled out through the windows. Maya's bright laugh, Harper's soft murmur, Lily's clear tone cutting through. I froze a second before going in, the others brushing past with their arms full of bottles. Through the glass I saw her, Elise head tilted back, laughing at something Harper said. She looked free in the moment, gladder than she ever did. I swallowed hard and followed the others inside, as I always did. And I forced myself to smile. Smile that I didn't feel, because deep down, I already knew. She had choices to make. And for the first time, I wasn't sure she would choose. That she would choose me. At that moment, I remember the car ride. It started quiet. Ethan drove, hands gripping the wheel too tightly, his jaw hard, and the glow of the dashboard lights. Jordan sat in the passenger seat, fiddling with the radio, until a song came on. Yeah. It had to be that, didn't it? By UGK. International Players. I Choose You. Feels good to get out, Jordan said, rolling his shoulders like it was shaking something off. Cabin fever is real. Lucas muttered, barely a thing. Jordan shot back. Exactly. As he smirked. That's all it takes. You trap 8 people together with booze. At that moment, I chuckled under my breath. I felt it appropriate. And he wasn't wrong. For a while, we listened to the music. UGK spitting those rhymes. So, I typed a text to a girl I used to see saying that I choose this cutie pie with whom I want to be. And I apologize if this message gets you down, that I CC'd every girl that I see around town. Ethan's lips twitched like the question irritated him. We're fine. We're fine. He didn't have to ask it, but Jordan knew. That didn't sound like a question. That didn't sound convincing. Ethan repeated, "It's all good. We're fine." A little bit sharper this time, a little bit more conclusive here. Loosened one hand from the wheel and wanted to crack his knuckles. I don't have the bandwidth for all this right now. Work's insane. You know what I mean? Jordan liked the fact that he was pressed. And Lucas leaned forward like he looked like he wanted to help. Look, that's the eternal trade-off. You prioritize work, and your relationship strains. You prioritize your relationship, and work suffers. There's no equilibrium. Jordan laughed, slapped the dashboard. That's Lucas, to make love sound like an experiment. But Ethan didn't laugh. His mouth stayed tight, eyes fixed on the dark road. I shifted in my seat, caught between wanting to defend Maya and wanting to stay invisible. It was always that. A clash of the guys or being on the actual side of what was right. And unfortunately, what was right was just being on the side of what was the girl's point of view. Still, I couldn't help myself from watching Ethan's reflection in the windshield. The way he seemed like it was not to unravel right there behind the wheel. I thought of Elise then. Thought of the way she had smiled earlier, polite but distant. When I'd made some joke about being the normal couple. She laughed short, but her eyes hadn't wandered. They hadn't warmed. It hadn't been her. She had already been halfway out of the conversation, out of the relationship. The truth was that she looked at me, but she didn't see me. Finally, we got to the store, and it's at the base of the road. Neon lights flickered against the light, against the night. Ethan pulled in hard, a little too fast, eyes crunching over the lot. He didn't wait for us before climbing out. Inside the store smelled of dust and fluorescent light. Jordan made a loud production of browsing the beer aisle, holding up cans like a sommelier. Lucas went straight to the wine rack, scanning labels with the speed of a man who knew exactly what he wanted. Ethan lingering near the front, thumbing his phone, clearly not invested in the errand he had created. I went to the snack aisle, picked up a bag of chips, put it back, and picked up another one. I wasn't hungry, but I knew I needed to munch. And so I headed for the dips. From where I stood, I could see the others. Jordan cracking jokes at no one in particular. Well, probably a store merchant. They were there, reluctantly indulging into Jordan's repertoire. Lucas squinting at a cork-sealed bottle like he was negotiating with it. Ethan's shoulders hunched, scrolling with desperation of someone looking for an answer that they knew they couldn't find. That was when it hit me. None of them were who they pretended to be. Jordan's humor was an armor. Lucas' precision was a shield, and Ethan's drive was eating him alive. And me? Well, I was the quiet one, the humble one. Instability hadn't made me any more likely to be the person they leaned on. Especially my girl. She needed someone with fire, with ambition, with more to offer than the lesson plans and predictable days. And then that moment, I realized she needed Ethan or Lucas. I thought about how freely she laughed around them, and how she didn't with me. How she was always measured. I was waiting for something I couldn't provide. I set the chips down at the cashier, and the dip, and the chocolate, thinking of the only person that I could think of. On the drive back, Jordan filled the silence with banter. Lucas corrected him once or twice, like an older brother fact-checking a sibling. Ethan said little, drinking from a bottle he had cracked open before starting the engine. And Lucas protested. I sat behind him, heart thudding at every curve of the road. Jordan egged him on. Relax, we're not on the freeway. I stared out the window at the pines, at their heights, rising and falling in the headlights, and I thought of Lisa again. Of the first year we dated, when she'd call me in the middle of the day just to tell me something funny. But she'd once told me I was the only person she felt truly safe with. Of how long it had been since I'd seen that look in someone's eyes, that I mattered to them, and I didn't want to break that. In that moment, the road curved and Ethan overcorrected slightly, the car swaying before settling back. And so my wandering thoughts settled back. To get back to it, I closed my eyes and I pretended I wasn't counting the seconds until we got back to the cabin. But we got back to the cabin. And the cabin glowed. The girls had put on all the lights, so it was warm against the dark as we pulled in. And between the boys, laughter carried beyond the windows, beyond the open doors. And us too were challenged by the windows, by the open doors, by the female laughs and the voices. I hesitated on the porch, bottles cradled in my arms. Through the glass, I caught sight of Elise. She sat on the couch with Maya and Harper, head tilted back, laughing at something Harper had said. She looked free. She looked happy, happier than I'd seen in weeks. My chest tightened, heavy as a stone, the sound of her laugh, so easy, so unburdened. I wanted to give her everything, but I just seemed to fail. Had everything. Jordan's shoulder passed me, kicking the door open like a hero returning from battle. Lucas followed, placing the wine neatly on the counter. Ethan walked in last, tossing his jacket over the chair and reaching for another beer. I lingered, forcing my mouth into a smile that obviously didn't reach my eyes. It didn't reach my eyes because the truth was right there in front of me, undeniable as the cold air clinging to my skin. At least had choices to make, and for the first time, I knew I wasn't the choice she would make.